Hello and welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast with me, your host Heidi Mark, where we discuss how to make overwhelm optional for you. Hello, in this week's episode, the last of 2020, I wanted to celebrate and release stuff about this podcast. So this has been an interesting year for all of us really, hasn't it? But it's been personally a really interesting year for me because I started to add the words with ease to the end of all my goals. Turns out adding the words with ease to all your goals doesn't make anything easier. In fact, in many ways, it makes it harder to start with. And this is why when you add the words with ease, or when I add the words with ease to my goals, that means that for me, I have to find the best way for me to do things. So you might like to think about this for yourself. So my very well learnt habits are to ignore what my body needs, to force my body to keep going, to get out of bed when I'm aching all over and exhausted and go to work, to force my mind to try and focus through the concrete wall of overwhelm. That was very common for me. And to really disconnect from my heart. So to push away tears, to kind of ignore the heaviness in the centre of my chest when I can't do the things I really want to do because either I'm stuck at work or I'm just too exhausted really to join in with things that I really wanted to do. So this became a really difficult pattern for me for many, many years. Even though I was using all of my productivity hacks and all my sleep hacks and all my health hacks and, I was really efficient, I was still overworking. And I think this is very common. I think it's quite hard to fight against it because this has become the norm, hasn't it? People shout about how they achieve brilliant things by never sleeping and by working stupid hours and being very driven and focused and even exercise and health kind of gets slotted into that. So everything's about pushing, everything's about high achievement. So for me, adding with ease to my goals was a way of achieving highly, but letting go of those habits. And that's what was difficult. But also that's what the reward was. So if I review the things that I did, and in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about this podcast because that's relevant, and I want to really celebrate and thank you for listening and being here because that's just magical to me, so thank you. So the thing that I got most from adding the words with ease to my goals was that I learnt that when I stop ignoring my body, when I reverse all of those habits, then I have energy, excitement, passion, and I feel like I'm really living again. So maybe you'd like to join in with this and maybe you'd like to pick something to add with ease to. So doing things with ease is the opposite of overwhelm because you're fully in your body and you're honouring who you are. But that takes practice. So let's talk about this podcast. I'd really like to talk about this podcast because it's a good example of what happens when you attempt to do something with ease, something unusual. So obviously most people don't podcast, but I would say if you've got a podcast inside of you, for me, it's about what can I do to add ease to the world, love, goodness, kindness, because there's so much negativity. I think there's also a lot of goodness, but because our minds are evolved to notice all the negative stuff, we need lots more positive stuff out there. So for me, one of the things about podcasting is being able to put something out that makes somebody's day better, that adds to the conversation that there's a better way to be, and inspires you, soothes you, helps you, gives you some tools, because I do teach on these podcasts as well for free, gives you some tools to help you live more skillfully, with more ease, more joy, more love in your life. So that's what was important for me. So I would say actually, of all the things I've done, all of the goals I've attached the words with ease to this year, actually launching the podcast was one of the easiest things, but not all the way through. So if I consider that I started this in March, so I just put launch podcast with ease. That was my main goal for March. And this is what I did. So I listened to Pat Flynn, who's an American guy who I'm very grateful to. I just listened to his one free training. And I can't even remember it now, but it was enough to inspire me. Then I talked to somebody else who had just started a podcast. I talked to them about mics, and I bought a Yeti Snowball mic, which I love. And it was my compromise because it was half the price of the other Yeti one. But I love it. It reminds me of a little kind of R2D2. It's very friendly, very easy to use. You just plug it in your computer. And that's really important, isn't it? If we're doing things with ease, you can get trapped into this overwhelming thing of, oh my God, to launch a podcast because I've got something that I want to share with the world, which I'd really encourage you to do. To launch a podcast is really complicated. It's not for me. I have to go on a course. I have to do this. Now, you might want to go on a course. Who am I to say? I didn't do one. But that's because I was doing with ease and I didn't have any money to do a course. In fact, I didn't want to do a course. I just wanted to do it. So I just did it. So I bought a mic, listened to Pat Flynn. I do recommend him. He's got YouTube videos you can check out. Then I used Audacity, and I still use Audacity to record. Now, that turned out to be harder than I thought. So Audacity is an amazing piece of software, and it's free, but you do have to learn how to use it. So that took a while. But they Audacity give lots of free YouTube videos. So actually that was okay in the end. So it's kind of like all the help's there to make it easy. But for a while there, I got lost in overwhelm. You know, that kind of, oh my God, I can't do this. It's too hard. Technology. And I think maybe that's partly because I'm in my 50s. So I didn't grow up with this, you know, technology doesn't come that naturally to me. I'm okay with that. And I learned very quickly how to use Audacity. I can't do masses with it, but I can do what I need to do for this. So that was another thing. Get out of your own way. Spend the minimum amount of money. Spend the minimum amount of time and just do it. Also, I think my attitude to it was important. So if you want to do something with ease, I do think it helps if you change your expectations. So if we get into but I can't do it because it won't be good enough, then that becomes really sad. And then you can get very easily overwhelmed and trapped in your mind's, you know, loop of doom about how dare you? How dare you? So I did have to dare, and then I had to let go of perfection. So what I decided was, why am I recording a podcast? Why am I going to release one? And this was really important. So I would start with intention. And my intention was I wanted to share my ideas, which other people were finding helpful and had asked me to share. And also because I feel called to do this work. But I had a problem where, as an ideas person, I was overwhelmed with ideas and I couldn't write them fast enough. So I thought if I speak them, it'll be faster. Now that's quite amusing because actually that works. But if you want people to find the podcast, you have to do helpful pieces of content, which means actually I'm writing and recording now. So it's not quicker at all. And that's quite funny. I'm just laughing at that. I'm okay with that because I love the podcast for its own sake, but that is quite amusing, actually. So obviously that bit of with ease didn't work quite as I intended. But another thing I had in my intention was not to do it perfectly, was just to say, right, when I talk, it helps me make sense of my ideas. So I was okay with making sense of my ideas kind of live. I mean, it's not exactly live, but it is live because I can't go back and redo it over and over again. And I had to be okay with that. And that having to be okay with doing things imperfectly, that turns out to be a real gift. And that's really helpful with overwhelm. When we get stuck in our heads and overwhelmed, we're trying to do things perfectly. And then we get stuck with fear about being seen imperfectly, then if I think of, you can think about that overwhelming state of fear that blocks you as like overwhelm, which is foggy and heavy, but with spikes in it. So if you've got overwhelm and fear, It's just horrendous. And that stops you. So I think anything that helps you unlearn that, get out of that habit, to notice you're getting really overwhelmed, going round in circles, you're not doing something you really want to do because you're scared of being seen as imperfect. That's been really helpful for me, because I can look back at some of my episodes and think, oh my God, probably terrible. Like my last episode I was concerned about because I think I accidentally didn't say mindset shift. I think I said mindset something else, which I can't say on this podcast without ticking a box about swearing. But, I just released it anyway, because you can judge it. You can laugh at it. I don't care anymore. That's okay. I'm doing my best. And that's okay. So I'd actually say that the process of just doing it, accepting that it's not going to be perfect, and then seeing what happens, that process has been really good for me in terms of learning to accept myself. And the more we can love and accept ourselves, the better, for lots of reasons. Loving and accepting ourselves is so important, but also it changes how we view others. So we're better at loving and accepting other people. And let's face it, we're all just a bunch of humans doing our best. So yeah, that imperfection thing's really interesting. So that brings me on to the next bit of releasing a podcast, which is editing. And I used to listen to the whole podcast and remove all of the ums and the ers and the, when my dog snored and all of that kind of stuff. And now I don't. I just do minimal editing. And the reason for this is, well, first of all, it's an enormous amount of work. And I have other things to focus on. But what also happened was I then got stuck into this perfection thing, and it's really unhelpful. And also the staring at the screen was really bad for my eyes, because when you're editing, you're doing a lot of really focused eye work, and it just wasn't good for me. So I stopped. So now what happens is, if I lose my train of thought, which does happen, obviously, because I'm human and this isn't scripted, then I pause during recording and try and get rid of the nonsense as much as I can. Otherwise, it just has to be forgivable. Hey ho, this is free. I pay to put this out, so it's okay. I'm just human. And also what happened was, when I listen to other people's podcasts, sometimes I think, oh my God, they didn't edit that out. And also doing interviews with other people who have podcasts and they're not worried. So in the end, I just got much more relaxed, and that's been a joy. That's been a gift for me. I don't know how it is for you guys. Actually, I'd quite like to know. Yeah, I love feedback, because I do want this to be really good, and I don't want it to be annoying with lots of ums and ahs and coughs and snores. But, it's a podcast. Podcasts are nice because they're really human, and it's like having an actual conversation with the person. So if you change it, make it too polished, it's not a podcast anymore, is it? It's something else. I think so anyway. So, launching a podcast with ease. I listened to Pat Flynn. I recommend him. I bought a mic. I used Audacity. I learned to do minimal editing in Audacity. And then I used Buzzsprout. So I'm telling you this if you want to launch a podcast, but I'm also showing you my steps so that anything you want to do that you're blocked on because you're overwhelmed, I'm just saying there are easy steps, break it down. And this was my final step, Buzzsprout. I love Buzzsprout so much. They're so friendly and so helpful. And then I just followed all their steps. They told me it's like filling in forms. And yeah, it was a little bit complicated sometimes because you're moving tech stuff around. But then I now upload my episode to Buzzsprout and they send it everywhere. So it's on all the podcast platforms because they helped me do that. And I think that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I'm very, very grateful to Pat Flynn, whoever made the Blue Yeti Snowball mic, whoever puts Audacity out and all the help, and to Buzzsprout. It's just amazing. Then I'm grateful to all the people who dared let me interview them. And that's another thing. So the next bit is, up it, be brave, interview people. And you know what? It's so much fun interviewing people because you get to know them, because you have a nice chat beforehand. And then just magic happens when two people talk who both want to put good, lovely stuff out into the world. and it changes your relationship with them, and it's just really nice. It's a really nice thing to do. So for me, launching a podcast with ease has been about breaking it down to tiny steps, following them through, getting out of my own way. And I did it in March. And now this is episode 41. So I'm celebrating all of that. That's what I'm celebrating. And then I'm celebrating the process of doing it with ease and everything that's given me personally, confidence, the ability to get out of my own overwhelm, get out of my own way, to move through the fear. And then things like my first ever review, which I think was only like the second episode. I got a 3-star review. It's like, oh dear, that's a bit depressing, but well, it doesn't really matter. So actually having to release that was a good thing to celebrate. So this brings us on to the next thing. So we're celebrating and releasing. This is part of my end of year ritual. So that's what I want to celebrate. Oh no, I haven't finished celebrating. I also want to celebrate you for listening, and particularly all those people who have written and said, thank you. Thank you. That episode really helped me in this way, and I've sent it to this person. So thank you. And even if you haven't told me, then thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Honestly, it's just amazing. I find it magical, absolutely magical that anybody listens. It's just a joy to me. So thank you. That I'm also celebrating you. And then I want to come on to releasing. What am I releasing? So I'm releasing the fact that I didn't do it properly. So a proper podcast launch involves hacking algorithms. So you get it into the like new and upcoming or whatever it's called on Apple so that more people find it. I'm releasing that because actually I don't regret it, because then I wouldn't have done launching with ease. But I'm releasing it as something I didn't do because I didn't do it. And I was going to say there's nothing I can do now, but actually there is something. I probably could do a proper launch and get it to more people. And I think that's probably something that I need to consider, because if it's helping you, then it will help other people. And my job is to find those people. So I could do that, but I'm releasing that as a pressure, because it's really important that I don't allow myself to get overwhelmed. It's no good having a podcast called Overwhelm is Optional and then succumbing to my own overwhelming pressure to have this wildly successful podcast. That's okay. And there's not actually masses I want to release about my podcast experiment. Another thing I do want to release, though, is any fear that I'm kind of still not doing it as well as I should, because there's still that. We still want to get better. So I'm releasing that as well. I hope it helps you, and I hope I'm still getting better anyway. And then the last thing I really want to release is the fact that I'm not very good at using my podcast to promote my own services. And really I should be, because I offer some really good services. But one of the reasons I'm not very good at it is I don't like listening to podcasts where the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes, particularly the first 5 minutes, are all about promoting that person's services. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't agree with it, because sometimes I need to hear their services. It's just that I haven't quite worked out how to do it, because my podcast needs to soothe you. It needs to inspire you. It needs to make you feel at ease. So I haven't quite worked that one out yet. I don't quite know how to, use the podcast to help you find what I can offer to help you more. I'm not sure about that. So I'm just releasing that for now, because I can only be where I am, and that's where I am at the moment. And I think that's a lot of doing things with ease, and a lot of celebrating how far we've come in a year, and a lot of the ability to release things is just saying, okay, this is where I am now. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can do. And the rest, well, some of it's not important. And if it is, we'll deal with it then. And now I'm just going to leave you with a neutral noticing practice of celebrating and releasing 2020 for you. And I'm doing this in a workshop tomorrow, because I've pulled together something that I do with my family anyway as the year turns, about celebrating, releasing and imagining in the new year. And I've put that into a little course called Live 2021 on Purpose. This is funny because now I am talking about how I can help you. But anyway, you probably won't listen to this in time, but that's okay. So I just, if you're not on that course with me, which most of you won't be, now I can see an error in my ways for not telling you about it before. I do apologise. I do need to sort this out, don't I? Haha, hilarious. Anyway, I'm going to do a neutral noticing practice for you now so that you can celebrate and release stuff from 2020 to make space for the new in 2021. But I'm going to say this with a caveat. So we're very into New Year's Eve, New Year's resolution, this big turning of the year. But actually, we're just going into winter. And winter's the time for resting, restoring, dreaming, and releasing. So I just think it takes longer than one point in the year to do this work. So I'm just going to invite you to be very gentle with this, rather than thinking, right, I have to list everything I'm grateful for this year and list everything I want to let go of all at once. No, I would just keep letting this practice wash over you for the next couple of months, actually, so that really what happens is you gradually pull forward the good stuff and release the stuff that no longer helps you. And then as you emerge into spring with more spring energy, then you're ready for the new year ahead. Does that make sense? It's more nourishing that way. Otherwise it just becomes an exercise in listing, and I don't think that's always helpful. That's in your head, listing, isn't it? So I'm going to invite you to drop out of your busy mind just for a moment. Drop into the body and feel your feet on the ground. Feel your feet on the ground. Allow your belly to soften if it wants to. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Just notice, softening belly or not. Don't try to change anything. Don't try to still your mind. Just gently but firmly place all of your attention in your body and feel your feet on the ground. Softening belly or not. And notice how you feel in this moment. And however you feel is however you feel. Just notice completely neutrally. And then just bringing to mind, but feeling in the body, when you felt most at ease, most alive, most happy during this year. And just notice what comes up. So don't try and list or remember everything. Just notice what immediately comes up for you, what draws your attention. And then stay in the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice what comes up for you in response to the question. When did I feel most at ease, most alive, most excited, most happy this year? What were you doing? Who were you with? Where were you? And then drop further into the body. What did you feel? What does ease feel like to you? What did the happiness feel like? You might notice the temperature on your skin, the softening of your body, the buzziness in your body. Maybe an expansiveness in the heart area, a fullness in the heart area. What can you hear? What can you see? What can you feel? Notice. Enjoy. And each time your mind gets involved with stories, judgments, just move your attention back to your body and allow any memories, body memories of ease, joy, excitement to come to you. Or not. Just notice. Don't try to remember, don't try to do anything. Just notice. It might be different each time you do this. It's all just interesting information, allowing the remembering of the bodily sensations of ease and joy from 2020. And then releasing that, feeling your feet on the ground. Allow your shoulders to move away from your ears if they want to. Notice how you feel. And then allowing any memories to come of times when you felt less at ease. When were the hardest times? So just feeling into the body. When did it feel like maybe you were pushing, tightening the body against the day, holding on, clinging, or feeling squished, or any heaviness? And if the mind gets involved, gently but firmly place your attention back in the body and notice for you what comes up, what were the less easy parts of the year for you, and how did that feel in the body? Stay in the body, in the heart. Allow the mind to do what it wants to do, but keep the attention in the body and just notice what that felt like for you or what comes up for you. And then releasing that too, and becoming aware of the whole body, feet on the ground, softening belly or not, shoulders moving away from the ears if they want to, or not. And then placing all your awareness in the centre of the chest, in the heart space. Just noticing how you feel. Just allowing any feelings of gratitude, anything you want to celebrate from 2020. Just allowing that to rest in the heart and notice how that feels for you at the moment. Absorbing any feelings of gratitude and celebration. And if it feels nice and appropriate to do so, you can allow those feelings to spread from the heart, through the arms, the belly, up the neck, down the legs, anywhere it feels nice. Just enjoying any feelings of gratitude and ease, any cause for celebration from this year. And then releasing that, scanning the body and just becoming aware of anywhere that maybe wants to release, habits of holding, tension, anything that feels heavy, anything in the body that is ready to be released at the end of 2020. And then anywhere that your attention is drawn to, you can just hold that area and wrap it in a soft blanket, soothing, gently allow anything that wishes to release into the ground to do so. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Just notice, giving your body the space to release anything it wishes to release, trusting that you only need to give space to your body kindly, curiously. You don't need to push things away. You don't need to change your breathing. You don't need to purposely relax or release. Just gently allowing anything that wants to go into the ground. Or not. Just be where you are at this moment in time. When you're ready, opening your eyes and just notice how you feel. Notice anywhere that feels different. Notice anywhere that feels lighter Just enjoying that. Anywhere that feels more at ease, more energized. Just notice and go gently with that. And you can do this celebrating and releasing many times as the year turns. And if you want to increase this, then I recommend journaling. So you want to stay out of your head when you're doing the neutral noticing practice. So you stay rooted in the body and you're really listening to the body and the heart and any information they want to give you. But afterwards, it can be really helpful, or at the end of the day or the end of the week, to just write down what you're really grateful for, what you really want to celebrate out of 2020 and what you want to let go of. So for me, I'm celebrating launching a podcast with ease and having you listen to it. And I'm releasing any anxiety over not doing the normal things with podcasts, like launch them and, make them make loads of money, reach more people. I'm releasing that at the moment. And I'm releasing my fear of saying the wrong thing, sounding stupid, whatever. And yeah, that's just one thing I'm celebrating and releasing from 2020. There's much more there. But I think what's really important to notice is if this becomes a thing where you're like, oh yeah, I must do that for everything. You can't do it for everything. It's like your to-do list. It's just a list of opportunities. And actually it's the pattern of noticing when we get overwhelmed and try and do too much, and the patterns of releasing. What's really good about doing this in the body is that you don't need to do it for everything in your life, because you can't anyway. But also when we do it in the body will release stuff without the mind getting involved. The body can feel the joy of everything just by remembering one thing. It's just easier. At least I find it easier, because you don't have to get involved in the whole writing huge lists. If you want to, do that. But I find one of the traps is, oh my God, I forgot that. I should have remembered that. And it doesn't matter. When we drop into the body and allow memories to come up, the thing that your attention is drawn to, that gives you enough information to do the work of release and celebrating. I hope that helps. Because it's supposed to be a nourishing practice that gets you out of overwhelm and out of your head, not another thing to add to your to-do list, where you get to March and you're like, oh, I still haven't done that release and celebrate thing. No, just do it now gently. And then I think once you've done it once, or even the idea of it tends to kind of drift through the mind, through the body over and over again. And then it just starts to happen all the time, because actually celebrating and releasing is a really good thing to do as a ritual every day. It's just that the turning of the year is a good clean out. And when we remember what was really good, how we really felt, when we felt most at ease, happiest during 2020, helps us draw more of that into our lives in 2021. So it's just a useful tool. Don't get hung up on doing it perfectly or neatly, or, it's just everything's messy, really. So enjoy it. Yeah. And thank you with my whole heart. Thank you for being here during 2020 in the first year of my podcast. And I hope that you will still be with me in 2021, and that you will share this so that other people can find it. And we can spread more kindness, playfulness, curiosity, love, and goodness out into the world. Thank you.